Hi there friends, I'm Jane and welcome to my messy little sewing corner. Today I'm going to be working on a 18th century stomacher for my robe à la francaise ensemble. I've shown this accessory before in my sack gown video when I did the final reveal of the outfit so far, minus important accessories. I've shown this accessory before in my sack gown video when I did the final reveal, but I really wanted to just walk through the process for this little guy as well and take it easy on myself for a little bit for reasons I will talk about later at the end. Anyways, as usual for my 18th century projects, I will be using the patterns and instructions from the book, and I always mess this one up, so I'm gonna read it out verbatim. The American Guide to 18th Century Dressmaking by Lauren Stowell and Abby Cox, which I will link in the descriptions as I always do. I don't want to spend too much time on the intro, make it too long, because this is really just a short frilly project, but I will see you at the end of the video in the conclusion, and yeah, we'll chat. First up, we got a layer of cotton canvas for stability. Traditionally, this would have been linen buckram, stiffened with glue, but we're working on a modern budget with modern fabrics. The Guide to 18th Century Dressmaking stomacher pattern is meant to be adjusted to the measurements from fitting the sack gown previously. My stomacher pattern is 10 inches across the top, 5 inches across the bottom, and 11 inches down the center. Next, I'm cutting out a layer of brown taffeta as the fashion fabric. And lastly, there's a layer of brown cotton voile for the lining. And before any layers are sewn together, the seam allowance is trimmed off the cotton canvas layer. After the cotton canvas is carefully centered and securely pinned to the taffeta layer, the taffeta seam allowance is folded over a little and basted with some green silk thread and a running stitch. This is just to hold the work while the actual sewing happens. Then the taffeta seam allowance is folded again over the canvas and hemmed down with tiny stitches using brown silk thread, starting with the straight edge along the top. The straight sides are done pretty much the same, but the bottom curve is gathered slightly with the basting stitches to make sure the taffeta lies smoothly on the outside. According to the instructions, I should have layered the lining on the back of the canvas and folded the taffeta over both layers, but I didn't realize this at the time. So instead of undoing all the sewing I just did, I folded half the seam allowance on the lining layer in and basted it down with some spare cotton thread. The lining layer was held against the taffeta and canvas, then the basted seam allowance was folded down once more. This left about 1/8 of an inch between the edge of the lining and the edge of the taffeta. The lining was hemmed to the taffeta and canvas layer using larger stitches than before. Now, of course, I wasn't going to leave the stomacher plain. 18th century stomachers, seen in paintings and extant garments, are always decorated with trims, a pattern on the fabric, or embroidery. For this project, pink trim is the best choice because the taffeta should hold the pinked edge well. For the first bit of trim, I cut 1 3/4 inch strips of brown taffeta with my pinking shears. I wasn't too worried about exactly how much trim I would end up with lengthwise, but I tried to create more rather than less. This pinked strip was then folded in half, pressed with an iron, and then whip gathered along the folded edge with silk thread to match. I pulled the thread to gather the trim in sections that were only a few inches long so that the thread wouldn't break as it probably would if I had done the entire strip and just gathered the entire strip all at once. Once the whole strip was gathered and fluffy, I pressed it flat with an iron. This trim making procedure was repeated until I had enough pink trim to fill up most of the available surface on the stomacher, leaving around ½ inch on each side so that the edges could be pinned down when worn. I spent a while arranging and rearranging the trim on the stomacher. Initially, I tried just one strip winding down to the bottom, kind of like mountain switchbacks, but I like the shape of one strip made into sort of two strips mirroring each other with enough space in between to add bows and even more decoration. So I pinned the trim down to keep the design and attached it with a prick stitch, which is basically just a spaced out back stitch, and just continue this along the entire winding strip of pinked trim. For the final touches, this is where I tried making a 5-loop bow out of a plain strip of brown taffeta with all the sides folded in and sewn down as a narrow hem. I only recorded making one of them, but I actually tried to do this like 4 different times using hem taffeta strips as well as satin ribbon and trying 4-loop bows instead of 5-loop as well. I'm not entirely sure I actually did this right, but from what I can tell, you kind of need 2 strips, and you basically make loops, like the first one in the middle, and then 2 on each side, and then with the other strip, you make just 2 loops and you sew them together so that they kind of form like a cross. But all of this is done with tack stitches and running stitches that can be gathered. So the techniques are actually very simple and straightforward, but the actual positioning of everything and trying to figure out exactly where things need to be gathered and those proportions and measurements is pretty rough. I probably should have seen if anyone else had a YouTube video where they made one of these, because the pictures are not the most useful to me, and I usually am pretty good with instructions and everything, and this is by no means a book review. And let me say, the silk taffeta worked a whole lot better than the polyester satin ribbon that I tried. Taffeta ribbon would have probably worked really well, but I didn't have any on hand in a coordinating color. Hopefully I can use some of these spare bows on an 18th century hat or something. I definitely struggle with the bows quite a bit, but I think they look okay in the end, so what else can you ask for? Hi, welcome back. Happy to see you're still here. So in terms of final thoughts about this, I kind of wish I had waited to, I know I just showed it top-down view, but here it is. Such a pretty brown. And there's 2 bows and all the trim. It's very cute. A little limp, but I'll live. I kind of wish I'd waited to attach the lining until after I added the decorations, because you can kind of see all these random stitches on the back. I do not have an autofocus camera, so this is just, I'm trying, but it's not really doing anything. Cool. It doesn't really matter because I'm the only one who'll see it on a regular basis, but well, I guess you will too, but you seem cool and you can mind your own business. I also can't believe that I actually had enough fabric to do the matching petticoat before I did this, entirely out of the brown taffeta as well, without the piecing of the blue on the back. I might have to go back and undo the blue piecing and add in brown just so I can wear it with a short sack, but I don't know, I always say that, huh? It's kind of like my catchphrase. I'll go back and fix it. So I mentioned earlier that I was trying to go a little easy on myself still, and that's because I got sick with the one respiratory illness that starts with the C back in February. I'm fine now, physically. I just lost a lot of momentum. I've been a little extra tired recovering. I don't think it's like the long version, but it takes a while to fully recover from an illness, even if you start feeling a lot better pretty quickly. So things have been a little bit weird with that. And then we're also moving apartments very soon, like in the next month or so. So a lot of packing, a lot of planning, and it'll be a lot of moving. So things are a bit weird there, as well as a bunch of important stuff in April, because I'm recording this in March. So I appreciate your patience. I know I'm not a huge channel, and I'm kind of holding myself to a higher standard than I probably need to with being consistent and releasing work on a schedule, but I take this seriously. I'm having a lot of fun, even if I'm overwhelmed sometimes. I still really enjoy doing this, so thanks for being here. If you had a good time watching my process today, go ahead, give this video a like, maybe comment something nice, maybe subscribe, ring a bell, you know, just the whole spiel. If you want to show a little bit of extra appreciation, I have a Ko-Fi link in my description where you can buy me a coffee. You can join the short list of people who have bought me coffees, and I appreciate that as well. Right now, I am no longer uploading on a monthly schedule. I am uploading when a project is done, the video is done, when everything is right. It'll just pop up when it pops up. I'm an agent of chaos, what can I say? I made an actual schedule for my channel and all the videos. Well, I made a Google Sheet document because I can't afford Microsoft Excel anymore. But I've just been really into Google Sheets lately, I don't know. You know, maybe things will be a little bit more organized. Maybe once I get back on my sort of consistent schedule, things will magically align to my schedule that I made. Probably not, but I can hope. Anyways, I will see you next time. Goodbye from my messy little sewing corner.